They have to provide their own water, their own security, high fence security, because you are on your own. Their own job is just to come around and tax you for providing your own electricity, providing your own water, providing your own security, providing this for yourself. They just come around and tax you for it. And that's why when there is talking to those who are water sellers, pushers, and he's also talking to those who are like selling the water to the water pushers. You must not sell it more than 200 naira. And you must not sell it more than 1,200 naira. If you sell it more than that, I will come for you. I will burn your truck. But you are the government. You are supposed to provide the water. And you'll make more money if you can provide water for every household, where people actually have to access water in their own homes. And they pay the water bill. But they will tell you, well, people will not pay. Our people know they pay. That is why we'll just leave them like that. And that is the mega shitty of Lagos. Well, let's leave them and then treat the current trending news. I have had people on Mayegun's Diary Political, the viewers here, who have asked me severally, why is it that I do not talk about Simon Ekpa? I do see some of those comments, but because I have had this vow way back before things got this messy, right? Within the Biafra advocacy, especially after the extraordinary rendition of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, I intentionally ignore some of those comments. But tonight, I'll tell you a few things. And there's a reason why I have to. Because, yeah, it's trending everywhere. Simon and 4 others have been arrested in Finland, which has brought back the same old no love lost social media frenzy. For those of you who probably should have, in case if you have lost your memory of this, I will remind you. 3.5 or so years ago, when all of us woke up to that news of the kidnapping of Nnamdi Kanu from Kenya, it took me almost a whole day to even accept it that it was real. No, it can't be. That can't be Nnamdi Kanu, no. Until the images, even when I saw the images, when I saw the video of his rendition, somehow inside me, I was waiting for it to be a no news. But there was so much events that took place afterward to what we now have today. The division, the hatred, the abuses, the attacks, the name it, that happened to this Biafran struggle. 3.5 years ago, again, when Mazi Nnamdi Kanu was renditioned back to Nigeria, there were so many questions, but there was no answer to them. There were so many questions running through the minds of millions of people. What was he doing in Kenya? We invited him to Kenya. How did they, so many questions. Then there was also the lacuna that is arrest in Kenya, which later led to an obvious kidnapping, extraordinary rendition of Nnamdi Kanu to Nigeria, there seems to be a lacuna. The top leadership disagreement. It all started from Nnamdi Kanu, who, in my own opinion, did not actually work on what was called the succession plan. If anything happened to me, this is the person I want to continue the struggle. He never did that. Something that I believe was like an oversight that he totally ignored. But he is a human being. We are all not infallible, so to say. So Nnamdi Kanu's extraordinary rendition created that lacuna of leadership. It shouldn't have. According to the IPOB, somebody like myself, right, about 10 years ago, started following the advocacy of the IPOB. It was around the time that Nnamdi Kanu was the most misunderstood human being alive. The Igbos who disliked his guts, the non-Igbos who wanted him hung, because it was like he talked so tough, so blunt, that you must have extra layer of skin on you not to want Nnamdi Kanu probably dead or something. But at the time, I saw more than an angry man, a very truthful man. I saw beyond what others saw as abuses, attacks. In Nigeria, a lot of people they are not really interested in the substance of your message. They are mostly interested in not understanding you. And they find comfort in that. How dare you say that about the Yoruba leaders? How can you say that about the Christian leaders? Why would you say that about the Igbo leaders? So there were others who felt like Nnamdi Kanu was a warmonger, hateful person. But when you digest most of his messages very well, except if you are, a compromised, biased person with probably a low mentality person, you can really take offense in Nnamdi Kanu's messages. But if you pay attention very well, like you don't even have to stress it to understand that except you are in support of all the abnormalities going on in that contraption, right? There is no way you would actually disagree with Nnamdi Kanu. He was talking about the criminals, which I speak about all the time too. And these criminals cut across all tribes, ethnic, religion, and all that. Or it was somebody that it was easy to hate, or somebody you would love to hate. So somehow, before his first supposed arrest in 2015, December, and when he was forcefully taken away from his hotel room in Lagos in December 2015, and then they launched what was called the government-sponsored propaganda, not just against him, but it was an opportunity for the likes of Bukwari to possibly take back or finish what they couldn't finish between 1967 and 1970. I was one of those very, very vocal non-Igbo person trying to educate others to see through most of the lies and what Nnamdi Kanu was preaching. So Nnamdi Kanu might be a very tough-talking person, but I found him as one man who loved the Igbos and Igbo people, especially the Biafrans, as he loved to call them, because Biafra is more than the Igbos. He loved them so much that he would never want any harm to happen to them. In fact, it was his fear of the arms coming the ways of the Biafrans that prompted him to continue to raise the alarm of something called the day of doom. If you don't do this, if we don't stand up, they are coming for us. They will kill us. They will this and that. And all these messages got a lot of people, gave them PTSD. And they called him a warmonger, somebody who was calling for violence. He wasn't calling for violence. He was warning against it at the time and calling on especially the Igbos. If you don't listen, you will be sacrificed. Again, this time, it won't be like the war you fought for 3 years. It will be a state-sponsored, more or less like a state-sponsored genocide in a different way, ethnic cleansing. Nnamdi Kanu never preached for war, and he would never want any harm come the way of the Igbos. The IPOB, on the other hand, they are these responsible people, collection of responsible people, old and young, home and abroad, who also, through the preachings of this man, dedicated themselves, their lives, to further push for the Biafra referendum. The IPOB is a non-violent movement. It might be hard for some of you to possibly believe that, but that's who they are. That is what actually attracted somebody like myself to listen to them and follow them, to the extent of speaking out for them anytime, anytime, anywhere, at any given opportunity. There was nowhere the violence that we are now witnessing today in the eastern part of Nigeria was anything to do with the IPOB. Ever. In fact, there were those who are also members of the IPOB at the time, or maybe not, who felt like Nnamdi Kanu was too soft. They wanted actions, but he wasn't giving them the way, because the action to him should have been taken straight to the enemies. And who is the enemy? The criminal politicians and their allies outside Igbo land, not to stage and start violence in Igbo land against the Igbo people in Igbo land. That was something that he preached so much against, that even when he met with the criminal politicians from eastern Nigeria, he kept talking about the protection of the Igbos, protection of the Igbo land against the invading Fulani terrorists. And when they won't yield, Nnamdi Kanu went behind them, assembled a group called the ESN, Eastern Security Network. But there are those who felt like IPOB is too soft. They said Nnamdi Kanu should raise what they call the dragon head. But the violence that you probably have against the enemies of the Ndigbo, enemies of Biafra, should never have launched any war in Biafra land. But to those of us who knows, when Nnamdi Kanu was renditioned, before his rendition, before they kidnapped him from Kenya, one of the arguments of Bokwari's government at the time was Nnamdi Kanu was so influential that he is a big threat. It's just going to be a matter of time before he would encourage these young men and women in Igbo land to go violent and carry guns. They went to America to lobby the American Congress to please join them in proscribing the IPOB as a terrorist organization. There was no record of them either in Igbo land or anywhere intimidating, harassing anybody. There was no record of that. So it became very difficult. I'm glad that the person who is now Donald Trump's chief of staff, I believe, the White House chief of staff today, that lady Weiss, happened to be one of the agencies or the lobbyist agent in America that worked with the IPOB, defended them and ensured that the attempt of Nigeria, after spending millions of dollars, the attempt of Nigeria under Bokwari to proscribe the IPOB internationally and call them terrorist organization was totally defeated in America, even here in the UK. Nnamdi Kanu talk stuff, of course. Then when he got released in that deal of 2000 and I think 2017, before they now attempted to kill 2018, then before they attempted to kill him in that 2018 September or thereabouts, he never pushed for any kind of violence in that place. So they needed to show to the world that IPOB is a violent or will later become violent. For over 3 years or thereabouts, when he was first kidnapped in Lagos, there was never a day that any violence or whatever was recorded in the eastern part of Nigeria. Not a single day. There were those who wanted to, but they couldn't. So when Nnamdi Kanu got rendition from Kenya back to Nigeria, like I said, this time around, it has created a big leadership vacuum in a way that it shouldn't have, because according to the IPOB leadership that I know of, they said they have hierarchy, that he might not have announced it or pronounced it, but if anything happens to him, they expected somebody else like next to him to take charge. But there came Simon Ekpa, a YouTuber, a social media content creator, a Biafran, a prominent one, who then presented himself and said, he is a disciple of Nnamdi Kanu. And in fact, Nnamdi Kanu wanted him to take over if anything happened to him. Interestingly, he's a young, brilliant guy. But there was this disagreement, which to me was the beginning of the mess that we are witnessing today. There's a group, there is a leadership in the IPOB called the DOS. So when Nnamdi Kanu got rendition back to Nigeria, it was reported that he ordered the IPOB leadership to let Simon continue to broadcast on the radio Biafra and order that the leadership of the IPOB in Koto chooses not to obey. Because according to them, they wanted more confirmation that Simon Ekpa is going to be a loyal IPOB member, because he was never a member of IPOB. He's just a YouTuber. He's just a Facebook content creator. That he had to swear this, he has to swear to an oath, he has to, like, mismanagement of that supposed order led to the path that Simon took that made him today is a prime minister of his own group, the Biafra government in exile, Biggie. But before he arrived in becoming the prime minister of Biggie or what have you, he ensured that the renditioning of Nnamdi Kanu would also, which also created an opportunity to further neutralize this all-powerful IPOB DOS. So they started creating different kind of stories around how Nnamdi Kanu got kidnapped. They started accusing everyone of being the person behind. In fact, there was time, expose by Simon Ekpa, where Simon, almost every day, will remind his own listeners and followers. Remember, IPOB members and maybe non-IPOB members who are like Biafrans, they were so rattled by the kidnapping of Nnamdi Kanu, so shocked, so lost. How did this happen? How could this happen? Why would they let this happen? You know what I mean? Who are those responsible? Was it Nigeria? Was it this or that? So it gave Simon an opportunity to fill in the gap and give them the answers that some of them possibly wanted, no matter how ridiculous some of those assumptions were. So to everybody that Simon had a stone to grind with, he accused almost everyone of being responsible for selling Nnamdi Kanu. There is nobody that they didn't accuse, to the point that they accused his wife, Nnamdi Kanu's wife, of being an ashewo, of being a this, he sold our leader. Everybody sold their leader. And it was a moment of, it was like a watershed moment that brought so much division to the struggle. I was watching from the far. Around that time, I actually did try to call people to order on this same Mayegun's Diary Political. And guess what? Because people were so riled up, people were so angry. Some of them told me to keep my mouth shut. Shut up your mouth. You this Yoruba. Wait till concern this Yoruba man in our problem. Wait till concern you this and that. They accused almost everyone until they started accusing themselves. It got so bad, man, that they started posting nude photos of themselves on social media. It was so bad that a lot of people today who are Simon Ekpa's followers strongly believed that the IPOB, these DOS, they are criminals, they are fraud, they are this. There's nothing that they haven't called them. And on the other hand, the IPOB, they are calling Simon a fraud, a scam, a this, a that, and the entire struggle. And that then gave the criminal politicians of Eastern Nigeria what they have been looking for. So what was that? To unleash their politically sponsored terrorists in the eastern part of Nigeria, so that they can easily just say, well, this attack is done by IPOB. They have the media. And Simon, who seems to love attention a lot, he loves attention, man. His social media is filled with some of these horrible happenings in Eastern Nigeria. What of this, what of that. And I remember coming on to Mayegun's Diary Political and said, please don't glorify some of these attacks. Please. If you want to go after the enemies of Biafra, and you just take it out of that place, and it should be somewhere else. It shouldn't be on your soil. Again, in case if you are reading their comment, because I know they are going to rush down here now, and the whole fight will continue again, but it's all right. Do not glorify all these happenings. If you continue to publish them, and they will kind of give them what they wanted. IPOB is violent this, IPOB is violent that. But they didn't stop. So both sides kept accusing each other. Oh, you are this. Oh, you are that. You are this. Oh, you know what I mean? Until what was supposed to be a very peaceful, enlightening, self-determination, advocacy turned into rivalry of thought. So when the IPOB said they were going to be sitting at home every day, every time that Nnamdi Kanu is taken to court, Simon Ekpa hijacked that. So what it's now, sit at home every Monday. That's the genesis. So IPOB then had to withdraw it and say, okay, you know what? We'll stop the sit at home now. Simon came out and said, no, we are not stopping until they release our leader. It got so bad that Nnamdi Kanu, through his own lawyer, wrote Simon, please, can you stop this? And he categorically said, I'm not going to take order from somebody in DSS detention. That's why he said, no, he can't give me an order. around that time, he's already kind of become like a real big block himself. And there were those who loved that. This is what we wanted. The Nnamdi Kanu won't do it. So now this is the person we would prefer. We need to give it to this Nigeria. I said, we need to give it to these people. We need to chase them out of our land and all that. So that gave the criminals in eastern part of Nigeria what they've always wanted. It got to a stage that Nnamdi Kanu was actually made to say something about the people that we are trying to fight for, the people we are trying to protect. We shouldn't be killing them. They call this bluff. I don't know if some of you remember this September